The Buffalo Bills opened the season in wild fashion, and if one thing became clear, it's this. The rookies are going to be a massive part of whatever success this team finds in 2025. Right out of the gate, we saw glimpses of what this new crop of players can bring to the table, and in some cases, what still needs work. Week 1 gave us a raw, emotional roller coaster, but also some serious takeaways. And yeah, we got to talk about it. Let's start with what everyone's buzzing about. Rookie impact. It was a mixed bag, but some names absolutely jumped off the screen. First, we have to acknowledge that first-rounder Maxwell Harrison wasn't available. He's on injured reserve. So, the most hyped name of the class didn't get his chance just yet. But don't worry, we had plenty to look at. Second-round pick TJ Sanders saw the field for a handful of snaps, 15 to be exact, and you could tell it was his first NFL game. One solid pass rush stood out, but otherwise, it was quiet. He didn't look out of place, but the game seemed just a bit fast for him. He's got time, and the flashes were there. Landon Jackson? Inactive. That one turned heads. Instead, it was Javon Solomon who suited up and took those third-round reps. He played some defense and made noise on special teams too. So now we're watching a real-time battle for rotation snaps between two promising young edge players. But if we're talking about who stood out most in the trenches, it was Deone Walker. The rookie defensive tackle showed up in a big way on a couple of plays. He was explosive, disruptive, and almost came away with a sack. On one rep, he pulled off a beautiful swim, move to win up front, but the play broke down in the secondary, letting Zay Flowers break loose. Still, Walker did his job. Later, he made another high-level play on a run stop, controlling both A-gaps and freeing up Dorian Williams to fly in and shut it down. That's high-level stuff from a first-year guy, and in just 13 snaps. He wasn't perfect, had some issues anchoring, but there's a lot to be excited about. In the secondary, Jordan Hancock was also inactive. But based on how the safeties performed, don't be surprised if the calls to get him on the field grow louder. Now, let's talk about Jackson Haw. This guy is a throwback. Old-school football player. Came in as a blocking tight end and absolutely set the tone. He was out there moving bodies, laying high-impact blocks, and you could see the technique, the leverage, the physicality. It was exactly what you wanted to see from a rookie trying to carve out a role. But then, boom, he makes a huge play down the seam. 29 yards on a shot up the middle, and it helped spark a scoring drive in the comeback. That's how you make your mark. And then there's Dorian Strong. The Bills threw this kid into the fire, rookie cornerback, 6th-round pick, and he started. And you know what? He held his own. He was only targeted twice and gave up one catch, which frankly wasn't even his fault. He got picked on the route by Taylor Rapp, crashing into the flat. Strong wasn't just decent, he was reliable. As a run defender, as a tackler in coverage, he looked like he belonged. And that says a lot. Chase Lunt didn't dress. Caden Prather's also on IR. So we didn't go look at everyone, but here's the bottom line. The Bills had meaningful contributions from their rookie class. Starters, role players, special teams guys, and a couple real bright spots in Haw and Strong. For first week, that's a solid start. Now, speaking of the game itself, let's zoom in on one of the most talked about moments, the almost blocked game-winning field goal. On first glance, everyone pointed the finger at Deone Walker. And to be honest, I did too. Looked like he let Kyle Hamilton blow right past him. And the logic makes sense. Block the inside rusher, right? He's got the shortest path to the ball. But then former Bills lineman John Fina stepped in and dropped some knowledge. And when a guy who played over 100 games in the NFL talks technique, you listen. He broke it down. Walker actually did what he was supposed to do. He left his inside leg long to force Hamilton to jump over it. The real issue? The tight end. Alec Anderson. He didn't get his outside arm into the gap like he was supposed to. That's what let Hamilton fly through untouched. So instead of calling out Walker, we should be looking at Anderson. It's one of those little details that can change a game, but thankfully, the kick still went through. The Bills won. But make no mistake, that was dangerously close to disaster. All right, now for a personal moment. People have been asking what the most memorable play of the game was. And look, there were a ton. Josh Allen was doing Josh Allen things. The offense was electric in the second half. But for me, it was the Ed Oliver forced fumble. That was the turning point. The Ravens had the ball, up by 8, just under 4 minutes left. First play of the drive, 13-yard run. And I'm thinking, okay, here we go. They're about to ice this. But then boom, next play, and Oliver punches it out. It flips the entire energy of the stadium. You go from despair to belief in 2 seconds. And in that moment, I thought they can actually win this. That's when it all changed. The defense deserves some love here too. After getting gashed for most of the game, they came up clutch down the stretch. 3 stops in a row, including that fumble. That's how you steal a game. You probably shouldn't have one. Because let's be real, how many of you thought the Bills were actually going to pull it off when they were down late? Exactly. But they did. They found a way. And you could argue that tempo from the Ravens was a big reason why the defense struggled early on. Not because of rookie mistakes or young guys being lost. Nah, it was the veterans who looked off. Terrell Bernard, Matt Milano, Taylor Rapp. These are the guys who didn't play up to standard. The tempo created confusion, delayed reactions, bad angles. It all snowballed. But once Baltimore slowed it down to kill clock, the Bills finally adjusted. They started swarming, selling out to stop the run. And that's when the game shifted. Now, if you're wondering whether the Bills need to tweak their approach moving forward, especially with the way Baltimore exposed their run defense, you're not alone. That offensive style is rare, and it does a number on Buffalo's defensive philosophy. The linebackers aren't downhill thumpers. They're matchup guys, space players. And when you force them into those physical trenches, it gets ugly fast. There's been some chatter about bringing up Zion Logue from the practice squad. And look, I'm intrigued. I'm also just a fan of having that one true one tech. A big dude who can plug gaps and take on double teams without being a total liability in the pass rush. You need one of those guys in today's NFL, especially in a system like Buffalo's that thrives on speed and attacking from depth. Now, let's get into something else that stirred a lot of conversation, this kicker situation. There's real concern about Tyler Bass and whether this injury is something that could linger. It's already clear the Bills didn't plan for this to be a long-term thing. But here we are. They brought in Matt Prater, who did his job and helped seal the win. But now the question becomes, even if Bass is technically ready to return, do you keep Prater around? Look, Sean McDermott has been publicly supportive of Bass. He called him one of our guys. But the reality is something's off. This isn't a one-week knock or soreness that clears up. It's been ongoing pelvic area tightness, slow ramp-ups, setbacks. He was supposed to be good to go, played, and then suddenly the Bills were working out other kickers and Bass was placed on injured reserve. That tells you everything you need to know. It's not progressing the way they hoped. So right now, I think you stick with Prater. Is he perfect? No. He's not going to give you a 57-yard bomb in cold weather. In fact, McDermott said flat out that they capped his range at 45 yards. So you're not getting those deep attempts, but you're getting reliability inside that range. You're getting a veteran with ice in his veins who won't flinch when it matters. That's what the Bills need right now. Ride with him and don't rush Bass back. Let him heal. If he's not right, don't risk another aggravation just for the sake of getting your starter back. Switching gears a bit, let's talk about Curtis Samuel. He was inactive against the Ravens, and that surprised a lot of people. When you bring in a player like him in the offseason, pay him decent money, you expect him to be a regular contributor. So naturally, folks are wondering, is he on a hot seat? Here's the thing. I actually expected either Samuel or Elijah Moore to be inactive. It ended up being Samuel, but it could flip next week. The Bills are still figuring out which rotation works best at wide receiver. And remember, Samuel missed a lot of time during training camp. That's important. The Bills might just feel Elijah Moore is more game ready at this point. That doesn't mean Samuel's days are numbered. Could the Bills move on from him? Theoretically, yes, but it wouldn't be pretty. Cutting him outright gives no real cap benefit. A trade would be the only viable path financially, but even then, it's not like teams are lining up to take on his contract. And considering his injury history, his market value probably isn't that high right now. So it's more likely they give him shots soon, possibly this week, and reevaluate from there. This could just be a slow start, not the beginning of the end. Let's get into another talking point that's come up a lot lately. The NFL's new virtual ball spotting rule. And let me clear up the confusion, because people saw Josh Allen slide, get marked short, and immediately thought the new system was broken. But here's the truth. The NFL didn't change how the ball is spotted. At all. Referees still physically mark the spot, just like always. The only virtual part is the measurement system, how they determine first downs. That's it. So when that Allen play was marked short, it wasn't a technology failure. It was just old-fashioned human error. Nothing has changed in that department. Let's also dive into a bigger picture discussion, because this one keeps coming up too: void years on contracts. Some fans see the Bills pushing money into the future and immediately think desperation. They're all in. It's Super Bowl or bust. But that's not really how the league works anymore. Smart teams manipulate the cap. They borrow from the future to compete now. And as long as the cap keeps rising, and it is year after year, it makes sense. Look, if you can stretch a deal over void years and open up $6 or $7 million today to go sign another starter, why wouldn't you? That's not being reckless. That's maximizing a window. Every top-tier team is doing it. Kansas City, Philadelphia, San Francisco. The Bills are just keeping pace. Brandon Beane is doing everything he can to squeeze value out of every dollar. And while you can absolutely question some of the moves, the strategy itself is sound. This isn't cap doom. It's cap efficiency in a league built for it. Back to football. Let's talk linebackers. Because if there was one group that really struggled against Baltimore, it was those guys. Terrell Bernard and Matt Milano, two players you expect to lead the charge. They just didn't have it. This wasn't about missed assignments or confusion. It was poor execution, slow reads, missed tackles, bad angles. They weren't getting off blocks. They weren't aggressive. And they weren't physical. That's the tricky part with this defense. It's built around speed, instincts, range. But against a team like Baltimore, with that smash-mouth run game and constant motion, you need guys who can step downhill and meet contact with force. And those aren't the strengths of this linebacker duo. The Ravens forced them out of their comfort zone, and it showed. But here's the good news. You don't play Baltimore every week. This week, it's the Jets, a team that tries to be the Ravens, but doesn't have the same personnel or discipline. So it's a chance to reset, clean things up, and show some resilience. The linebackers need that bounce back. The whole defense does. And honestly, the entire win was a perfect example of how a million little things can swing a game. When you win a game where your win probability was less than 1% late in the fourth quarter, you don't do it with one heroic moment. You do it with 20 things going right, just barely. One missed block by the opponent, one clutch tackle, one forced fumble, one missed holding call. And boom, you've got a win. That's what happened here. And it all circles back to what we said at the top, the rookies. Because in that chaos, in that tension, guys like Dorian Strong and Jackson Hall were out there making a difference. Not just holding their own, actually changing the game. And if that's what we're seeing in week 1, the potential down the road is sky high. Now, up next, we're going to dig into Curtis Samuel's status moving forward, the potential return of Hoy Harrison, and what all this means for the receiver room. Plus, a few great questions from the fans, including how my wife became a full-on Bills Mafia convert and what she thinks about this team now. Don't go anywhere. This next segment is going to be a fun one. Before we dive back in, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest Buffalo Bills updates straight to your screen. And hey, don't hold back. Let us know your thoughts on today's news down in the comments. The NFL world woke up today buzzing with one of the most unexpected moves of the offseason. In a decision that stunned analysts and ignited debates across sports talk shows, the Buffalo Bills have reportedly secured the services of British defensive end EFE OBADA, prying him away from the Washington Commanders with a 3-year deal. While official figures of the contract remain under wraps, insiders suggest that the Bills made a bold, calculated investment in a player whose career has been anything but conventional. OBADA's journey is legendary within league circles. Born in Nigeria, raised in London, and discovered through the NFL's International Pathway program, he has always carried the label of outsider-turned-underdog. That narrative has now added a dramatic twist, as Buffalo fans are left wondering how their front office managed to lure him away from Washington, where he had steadily grown into a respected presence on the defensive line. The move has stirred curiosity and skepticism alike. For some, OBADA is a rotational player at best, valued for his versatility, but not often mentioned among the league's elite pass rushers. For others, he embodies precisely the kind of depth and disruptive energy the Bills desperately need as they continue their relentless pursuit of a Super Bowl appearance. Whispers around the league suggest that head coach Sean McDermott has long admired OBADA's relentless motor and saw in him the missing piece to keep Buffalo's defense sharp late in games. British media, meanwhile, are already celebrating the signing as another breakthrough moment for international representation in America's most insular sport. The deal, in their eyes, signals not just OBADA's persistence, but also the widening reach of the NFL, which has long sought to deepen its ties with the UK market. Is this a masterstroke or a gamble that could backfire? For now, the rumor mill spins with excitement, and Bills Mafia, famous for their loyalty and wild enthusiasm, are ready to embrace their new British star. One thing is certain. The shockwaves of this announcement will echo far beyond Orchard Park. That's a wrap for now. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay on top of all things Buffalo Bills, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. We'd love to hear what you think in the comments. See you in the next update.